The views expressed on the Badge to the Bone podcast, while often accurate and sometimes even funny, are not intended to represent the official positions of any law enforcement, public safety agency, or their employees. So lighten up. This podcast contains mature themes, strong language, violence, and nudity. Okay, maybe not the last two. Listener discretion is advised.
Welcome to Badge to the Bone podcast. I'm Denny.
I'm Al.
And we are here with yet another episode. So I think, as always, we have lots to talk about, Al.
Yes, we do.
All right, so let's go ahead and jump right on in. Hey, Al.
Hey, Denny. We're back again.
We are. We're still here.
Amazing though it is.
It is.
Yeah. So, you took a trip recently?
I did. About, I guess we're thinking what today is, back on the 20th.
Yeah. So, I think you did some stuff that maybe our listeners would like to hear.
Sure. So short story long, I had a lady reach out to me, Diane Sherwood, and she is with Remember Rally, which is a nonprofit organization out in Minnesota for military and first responders. So, and it really just started, she reached out to me kind of to pick my brain on some, stuff.
So what'd she do with the rest of the time?
So the 30 seconds it takes to pick my brain. But she wanted to put on a conference for her first responders, a sort of trauma and mental wellness and resiliency for her first responders. And, she wanted to include, anybody that has, exposure to trauma. So she had sent like a questionnaire out. I answered it, gave my 2 cents worth, and then that turned into an email conversation and a phone conversation. And as she was, putting together, and we talked about speakers, and, Virginia does an impact of trauma for a law enforcement conference. They do that every year. Virginia Department of Criminal Justice Services puts that on. It's a really good conference.
No, it's an excellent one.
And it usually runs 2 days. And she wasn't really, with them being nonprofit, she was, with funding and stuff like that, really just wanted to run a 1 day. So at the end of, or talking about different things and getting some of my suggestions, she actually invited if I'd be willing to come speak. And of course, I'm, not going to say no. This is what we do, and this is, a lot to do with what our podcast is about. So I decided I would go, and it's a little town called Luverne, Minnesota. Most of you probably don't know where it is. I had no clue. I had to look it up, and it is like southwest Minnesota. It is just east of Sioux Falls, South Dakota, like 30 minutes. So with that being in Minnesota,
more cows than people? Or?
Actually, a lot of the windmills. They had a lot of those.
Really?
A ton of wind. I mean, driving on the highway, they're everywhere. I guess all the electricity or the alternative power solution windmills or whatever, but those things are huge, and they were everywhere. But anybody that knows Denny real well, Denny doesn't fly. I don't like to fly. I don't like flying. I don't like airplanes. I don't like being up in them. They're great for me to view them from the ground. I don't like to fly. The last time I flew, I think, was 1995.
You're kidding me.
No, I don't. I just don't. I don't like it.
I have to think about it. Wait, you really haven't flown since 1995?
No. Well, now, okay, I take that back. No, that's probably the last time I flew on a commercial plane. Probably 1995, because I don't like to fly, and I've missed a lot of trips because I don't like to fly. Yeah, I'm working through it and all that shit. But I did take some flights when I was on the PD. I had to fly to I did fly on the governor's plane with the fugitive task force. We picked up a fugitive in Newark in New Jersey, so I flew up there on that plane. I didn't want to, but, he's my guy. I got to go get him.
Wow.
And then I did fly to Fayetteville, North Carolina to interview a homicide suspect that was arrested down there. He fled to North Carolina, was arrested, and I asked to drive because my partner in investigation called and said, hey, he's been arrested. They want us to fly down there and interview him right away. And I'm like, oh, no, I'm not getting on that little ass plane. I'm not flying all the way down there. Like, we got to go interview him.
So how medicated were you when you got on that flight?
On this one, or the PD ones, I wasn't. I just had to suck it up.
This one.
Okay, well, on this one, I did go visit my physician and explain to her that I don't like to fly. Like, I really don't like to fly, and I'm going to need a little something. So she did give me some meds, but they really didn't seem to do that great. And I think it was a low dose.
You have to mix them with alcohol. That's what
Well,
helps.
we did get there. I had to fly into Chicago, and it was a total shit show after that because we had like 20 minutes to catch our plane. We had to go all the way on the other side of O'Hare, which is a pretty big airport. So we're hauling ass to get there. I'm still feeling like, a lot of anxiety. Like, I don't want to be in this damn thing. So we had upgraded to first class. I'm in the front row. When the guy starts coming around asking for a drink, I'm like, oh, yeah, bourbon and Coke.
I'm still trying to wrap my head around upgraded to first class because that never happens to me.
No. We had to pay to upgrade. It was no. They didn't just say, hey, you want to sit in first class? No, none of that. We weren't. No.
Okay.
I'm not that special.
No.
But it opened up, and my wife's like, hey, it's like $100 so we can upgrade to first class. I'm like, well, fuck yeah, let's do it. If I'm gonna plummet into a mountain, might as well do it first class.
And you might as well do it in a comfy seat.
Right. So once I got the bourbon, then I actually felt pretty good. And I sucked that one down, and he's like, you want another? I'm like, oh, yeah. So that actually did pretty good. And so obviously I survived, and the flights went well, but I flew out there, and then we flew into Sioux Falls and went to Luverne, Minnesota. And it is a small town. I think the population is somewhere around 4,500, something like that. But Diane down there put on a really great little conference. And it was a smaller conference. It wasn't anything really huge. But what was, I thought, really cool about it is we didn't have just for law enforcement. It was first responders all together. So we had representatives from law enforcement, fire, EMS, and dispatch. We actually had, I think, 2 members from the school system. And then we actually had several members from the mental health community. And I thought that was pretty important. Because what I was talking about and what some of the other presenters were talking about are things they need to hear, particularly if they are going to try to help or be available for law enforcement.
Well, most of them are, they're not used to hearing the things that we're probably going to tell them in a session.
Right. And
at all.
Right. So I was, super excited that they were there. I'm like, this is great. One, it shows me that there are mental health professionals that really want to be able to help first responders and willing to take steps and do things to try to bridge that gap, if you will. So they were there listening. Actually asked some really good questions, which, showed me that evidently they listened to what I said. I gave some of my experiences in law enforcement, and I know there was one particular lady sitting near the front, and I mean, she just looked mortified at some of the things that I had described that I experienced, and I thought, man, maybe I need to kind of...
You didn't scare any of these people off, did you?
No, nobody ran out of there.
Okay.
Thank goodness. But she looked like she was not prepared to hear some of the shit that I had to say and some of the shit that and it was really... That's just scratching the surface, so...
Oh, yeah. Oh, God, yeah.
But there was another lady there that was with mental health, and she approached me after. She had a really good question about, how do they gain the trust of law enforcement? And we talked about that a little bit, and I think we probably should approach it if we can ever get our one guest we've been trying for a while.
Yeah.
Dive into that. But that was a good question, and she talked to me for a few minutes. I actually said she listens to the podcast.
That alone is impressive.
From Minnesota.
Wow.
So hopefully, she said she's listened to all the episodes. I can only think that she's listened to this one. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Remember speaking with you, and thank you for your questions and speaking with me. That was really awesome. But it was just a great little conference. Again, it was very small, but everybody seemed really engaged, and the presenters that we had were really awesome. And for me, it was just humbling to be with that group because they were really great presenters, and what they had to say and what they presented and talked about, I thought was outstanding. And it just kind of humbled me to be able to be in the class of those individuals that were just fantastic, great speakers. And I'm hoping to get them on the podcast here.
No, that would be wonderful. I mean, they sound like, a group that really, if we can help them get their message out there.
Absolutely. I mean, it was a great, and we talked about that while we were there. So, we've exchanged some contact information. So hopefully they'll be forthcoming before long and I can get them on the podcast. But good conference. And I would say if you get a moment, go to rememberrally.com. Go to that website. It's a nonprofit. They're working on building a memorial for their first responders and for their military, but it's a good organization and they definitely need funding. It would be great if you go in and whatever you can donate, give a little donation, help them out. I know it's not local to our area here, but it's a great community.
No, it sounds like, they're doing it for everyone. They're not just doing it for Minnesota.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
And we will definitely get that up on our social media for people to check out. And like you said, hopefully give them a little donation or spread their message for them.
Yeah, no doubt. Check it out. This is what we do is not just for our local area here or our state. We want to be able to reach out and branch out and reach, far and wide. So check out rememberrally.com. Luverne, Minnesota, thank you for having me. Fantastic town. I actually will probably come back and visit again. We had a great time there, and it was definitely a good trip. And thank you for everybody that was at the conference and for all the presenters. We will be talking soon. So awesome trip, though.
Well, that's great. You're almost like a celebrity now.
No, not even close. Not even close.
So that was in Minnesota. So
yes, sir.
But we are going to talk a little more locally tonight, are we not?
Yeah, because we're going to air out some shit right now.
This is going to be where the feelings get hurt.
There may be some, and you know what? I'm going to call out some names on this one. We're going to call some people out, and whether they're listening or not, or whether their supporters are listening, I'm sorry. It's not right. It's messed up, and so hold on to your ass.
So,
because we're coming out swinging.
Where are we going to start? Which one do you want to start with? Because we got a bit of a list going here.
And that's a problem right there when you're saying, which one do we want to start with? Why is it more than one? It shouldn't be more than freaking one. It shouldn't be even one.
It shouldn't be any, but here we sit in 2023 where we are everybody's favorite punching bag.
Okay, so let's start with Richmond, Virginia.
Okay.
There you are. If you're from Richmond, we're calling it out right now. Let's start with that one because they just got the verdict in.
So let me recap this a little bit,
please.
This was a little over a year ago. We had an officer in the city, and this officer, and I'm going to name him because his name is in the press.
Yep.
So
yep.
Not giving away any sort of secrets or anything.
Nope. Everything's been pretty much released on the news.
Right. So this is Officer Richard Johnson, and he was responding to a burglary in progress.
Correct.
He was running lights and sirens, code 3, and he ends up on his way to this call striking another vehicle. That vehicle is occupied by 2 individuals that media has identified as Jeremiah Ruffin, age 18, and Tracy Williams, age 19. Mr. Ruffin was driving the other vehicle, but Officer Johnson's vehicle was 25 over in a 35 zone, if I'm correct.
Yeah, he was 59 in a 35, so 24 over.
24 over, sorry. And the Mr. Ruffin's vehicle was 7 over. It was also 35 zone.
Correct.
And Mr. Ruffin and Ms. Williams are ejected from the vehicle, and they die at the scene.
Correct.
And ultimately, Officer Johnson is criminally charged with 2 counts of involuntary manslaughter. And as of this past week, he was convicted on both counts.
Yep. You got it.
Needless to say, that has made quite an impression on the area law enforcement community.
Absolutely. And you know, I'm going to, anytime there's loss of life, it's tragic. It doesn't matter who it is. Loss of life is tragic regardless. And we get that. But it doesn't mean that.
No, and let's, again, I'm gonna say this again. These 2 kids, and that's what they were. They were kids.
Yes.
These 2 kids did not deserve to die.
Correct. And we want to be sensitive to that. We want to be, aware of that. I think that's why we want to overemphasize that. It's tragic regardless. But just because there is a tragedy doesn't mean we have to reach out and find someone to blame. And that's exactly what's going on. And it's falling on the shoulders of law enforcement.
Well, and you say reach out and find someone to blame.
Well,
I'm a little torn here. So,
okay.
So you and I have talked about this off air.
We have.
And we've knocked this one around a little bit. There's a distinction, and as we go forward, this is going to be clear, I think. There's a distinction between that officer needs to be accountable.
Sure.
And that officer needs to be accountable criminally. Right?
If you look at it, now I know with the speed, one of the issues they focused on was Richmond PD only allows you to exceed the speed limit of 15 miles an hour when responding code.
So based upon that, we know that he was out of policy.
Correct.
Right.
That's absolutely a policy violation. That there's repercussions for policy violations.
And just to be clear, this matter was handled civilly, and that matter has been adjudicated.
Yes.
In the favor of the plaintiff's families.
Yes. And I don't have.
It was an undisclosed settlement.
And I don't have issues with that.
No, not at all.
That goes to where, if you make a mistake, you may have to pay monetarily for that mistake. There may, that I don't take issue with that. If the city's going to settle, the department's going to settle. Obviously, there was some mistakes made, but that doesn't rise to the level of a criminal charge. And the same thing with policy violations. A policy violation doesn't always mean that there's been a breach of the law. And what the Commonwealth attorney or the prosecuting attorney there, Colette McKeechan, yes, and I'm calling out her name, Colette McKeechan, absolutely do not fucking vote for her again. If you're in Richmond City and you want your police department to do anything on the street and protect your street, if you want them to actually get out there and work, then do not fucking vote for that person again, because she is a poisonous cancer that is going to do nothing but degrade that department and turn them into nothing but glorified report takers because they're going to be afraid to do their job. And yes, I fucking said it, and I'm pissed because this is ridiculous.
Tell me what you really think, Denny.
So what she's hinging on is they violated policy. They were more than 15 miles an hour over. They were 24 miles an hour. So she's going under because you do have to operate due regard for safety. You have to, when you operate your police motor vehicle, when you kick on lights and sirens, you have to operate.
And the code is pretty clear on that.
It is a due regard for safety. Now, just because you had a bad outcome with driving code does not mean automatically that you're not operating due regard to safety. I'm sorry, anytime you're responding under emergency conditions, anytime you're speeding, when a regular citizen is speeding, when those things start to happen, the chances for things to go wrong or go awry increase. So you do have to operate with due regard for safety. Now, the officer testified that he didn't feel he was going that fast. He didn't perceive himself to be going at a really excessive speed. Obviously knows he's going above the speed limit. He's running lights and sirens, but he was running his lights and his sirens as directed by code. The officer explained that he looked at the intersection and he came off the gas. Now, he didn't brake, and I think they harped on that he didn't hit the brakes and make a...
Oh,
but he did come off the gas, and he looked and saw no car coming.
And again, he's responsible for clearing that intersection, right?
Yes.
And the code is pretty clear on that.
Sure.
And maybe he didn't clear that intersection exactly as he was supposed to have cleared it. And I think you had pulled up you had found some witness testimony on that.
Yeah, they had, and there was a gentleman that testified, and crazy enough, and I'd have to go back and read exactly, but it looks as if that he was interviewed initially, and then, boom, was not talked to again for quite some time. And then, lo and behold, just before they go to trial, he is now found and talked to again. And his testimony was he saw the police vehicle coming. He didn't think the police vehicle was going that fast. He didn't perceive it as being an excessively high rate of speed. He did say that the other vehicle looked like that was speeding. And I think during his testimony, he may have mentioned that it could have been, the perspective of where he was seeing the vehicles, how he was seeing them approach, that maybe affected how they were viewed or how they appeared to be traveling. And that can change. If you're looking at something head on or sideways, it may look different on speed. But of course, this citizen is saying the police car didn't seem to be going, at a high rate of speed. It did look like the other vehicle was speeding, and and they proceeded through a yellow light. Now, when you get a yellow light, you are supposed to stop. The vehicle
civilian
operated by the deceased.
Okay.
Proceeded through a yellow light. The police car did have a red light. They were getting the yellow light. Now, there's two things that cover that. When you get a yellow light, you are supposed to stop. That is your signal to come to a stop. Now, the law does say if you're committed to the intersection, which to me, committed to the intersection means you are past that stop bar at your stoplight. You have passed that stop bar and you are entering the intersection. The light turns yellow. You proceed through the intersection. If you're approaching and you have not come to that stop bar and the light turns yellow, you are required to stop. And a lot of people miss that. A lot of people look at the yellow light as their cue to just keep on going or speed up and try to beat the light. I'm not saying that's what they try to do, but they did proceed through a yellow light. So the Commonwealth attorney is trying to say that this is a gross negligence, that 59 and a 35, and he didn't clear the intersection like he should. It was a red light, and it's a gross negligence. I do not see how you make that kind of leap of gross negligence. Now, if he came blazing through that intersection at 90 miles an hour, I'd be on board with you. At 90 miles an hour or more, you clearly know you're driving at a very excessive speed.
No, and I'm just looking through some legal stuff while we're on, and one of the things that Virginia law talks about, and I do not profess to be an attorney, is things like DUI, for example, being a mitigating factor that would elevate a traffic crash to involuntary manslaughter.
Right. Yep. Alcohol. Yep.
We don't have that.
We do not.
So it is. You worked in that locality for a brief period of time.
I did.
I never worked for that locality, but I worked in that locality for most of my career through two different agencies. I'd never seen anything like it.
No.
Now, I will say, in all candor, I used to tell recruits that if the city was running code to something, right, you best watch your intersections, because those guys would come through there like sideways.
Now,
That's been a long time ago.
Sure.
That's been a long time ago. And things have definitely changed.
No, and there are officers that don't do a very good job of their due regard. I've seen it.
Yeah.
No doubt. But I just have a hard time making the leap on this situation here. 59, someone may say, man, 59, that's just flying on a 35 zone. It's really not.
No, I could run radar. I could run stationary radar in a 35 zone and stop people running 59 or greater all day long and twice on Sunday.
We used to find people running 60 and 60 plus in 35 zones all the time. It was very common.
Fish in a barrel.
We're not talking about 100 miles an hour. We're not talking about 90 miles an hour. So to make that leap, then you have the other circumstances. But you have the officers going, the officer's driving, he's going, I don't think, he thought he was going 45, I believe. Now, the other thing people don't realize is when you're running lights and sirens, you are looking around constantly. You have a lot going on, and you do have to multitask. The lights and sirens are going. The radio's going. You're trying to listen to what's going on. He was actually following another responding vehicle. So you're watching that vehicle too, because you don't want to ride up on them if they end up having to make an emergency maneuver. So you're watching that.
And so he's following another vehicle, so it's safe to assume he was potentially keeping up with that vehicle.
I believe, and I think that was some of the testimony too, that, they don't want that officer to get there and the situation be an officer safety issue and then not have the backup. This was a burglary in progress. That's the other part of it. You're trying to, in your mind, trying to figure out what maybe is going on with the situation. Is it aggravated? Is this person armed? Where am I going to position my vehicle when I get there so I don't pull right up in front of the person that may be armed and put myself in harm's way? And then when I get out, I need to be ready and start immediately looking because the suspect could be anywhere around there. So you have a lot that you're doing, and you're not going to be specifically zeroed in on your speedometer looking down going, well, let me make sure I'm 15 over. There's a lot going on. And could the officer have gotten a little bit of tunnel vision? Sure, it's high stress. Tunnel vision does not mean you're now criminally negligent. It just doesn't.
No, I agree with you. And I'm just, this verdict came down. And, I got friends, as you do too, that worked their entire careers with that agency.
Yes.
In some cases, we're talking 3 decades or more that were just blown away at that verdict.
Yep.
And, so Virginia Code says no less than 10 years.
Yeah.
Per count.
But you look, but you got to look at the totality of the circumstances as well. So you should give some credit to what the officer's saying, that I didn't think I was going that fast, and I looked at the intersection. I was pretty sure I cleared the intersection. I looked. Maybe he didn't see something. Maybe, again, you'd be amazed at what you don't see under high stress sometimes. But on the other side of it, you have the other vehicle. They are speeding as well, albeit not 24 over, 7 over, but it's still exceeding the speed limit. So you have them exceeding the speed limit. You have neither person in the car isn't licensed driver. Neither are a licensed driver. And then neither are wearing their seatbelts. You change any one of those dynamics, and you very well could change the outcome of this. This could be a crash. It could be survivable. We don't know.
No, we don't.
But I think you fail to look at all these circumstances where there's more than one mistake made. If you want to say the officer made a mistake, he didn't clear the intersection like he should have, and he was going faster than he should have been.
And I'm going to give an opinion that's not going to necessarily be popular, even in some of our circles. I think the officer did make a mistake.
Okay, and I'm okay.
I do. I think the officer made a mistake.
But I won't argue
that. But that officer, I will venture a guess, made a mistake that pretty much any of us that have been on the job for any significant period of time have made.
Yes. Yeah. Oh, absolutely.
That perhaps we did drive too fast for the conditions. perhaps we paid attention to A and B but not C, or A and C and not B. These things happen with human beings.
Absolutely. But it doesn't mean you're negligent. Yes, some mistakes could be negligent.
Well, in a civil standard, negligence is...
Well, and I'm not going on a civil standard. You make a mistake. You didn't clear the intersection as thoroughly as you should have because it was high stress and you were running 100.
Is he?
Then yes, the city is liable for that.
Well, yeah,
okay.
and I'm going to sit here and go, I think that 100% he's civilly liable. Yeah,
and
I don't know.
I don't have an issue with.
I don't know how we dispute that.
I don't think you can, and I'm with you on that. Civil liability is very different. It's a much lower standard. But to go that this person is negligent, is grossly negligent.
Well, and that we've just gone from we've turned the amps up to 11.
Yes.
And now this guy's looking at nothing less than 10 years. And I'm going to be really cynical here and say he probably gets that or most of it to serve.
Yeah, unless you get a judge that steps in and tries to, do something to tone that down. Or unless he goes, I'm sure he'll appeal it, and we can only hope that maybe an appellate court will look at it and go, no, look, it's a bad situation. It is a tragedy, no doubt. But it's a series of mistakes that happen. I mean, if we're going to commit, we're going to go, we'll go ahead and check the box. Officer made a mistake. He's going a little faster than he should have been going. And maybe he didn't, I don't know for sure. I can't say, I don't know what he saw through his eyes. But maybe he didn't do as clean of a job of clearing that intersection before he proceeded through. So you have some mistakes. The other car made mistakes as well. They're proceeding on the yellow. They are speeding as well. Nobody is wearing a seatbelt. And then the Virginia code of you're supposed to yield to an emergency vehicle. That is clear as day. It doesn't matter how fast that police vehicle, you are to yield to an emergency vehicle, and they did not.
Yeah,
there's a whole series of mistakes there, but we want to put it on the officer. We're going to throw it on the officer that, man, he was only supposed to go 15 over. We're gonna charge him, and I think a lot of it has to do with the anti-police rhetoric that people are jumping on, and then
which let's be honest, Richmond has embraced.
Absolutely. Oh, absolutely embraced. Absolutely embraced, and they are fully on board with anti-cop, anti-police, and you're going to see your department continuing to degrade because of that. And then now you have a prosecutor who's evidently on the anti-police, but I think it's political. That's political stock for her. She's now a prosecutor. She's got a city that's doesn't want to support the police. So now she's going to prosecute these two, and as she likes to think, hold them accountable and the police accountable, and she's going to crucify this officer, and that's going to give her political stock. It's all about her political expediency.
Well, we're seeing that. I mean, we're seeing that all over the country.
You're right. And Richmond is not the only ones that are experiencing that. Unfortunately, that's just the local one we are experiencing now.
Before we went on air, I pulled up the situation with DA Gascon, Los Angeles County. And he is revisiting a case from 2020 where two officers shot a guy that was going for a gun that turned out to be an air rifle on a traffic stop.
Because you can tell exactly what it is.
Yeah, because it's not like an air rifle or, like, God forbid, an airsoft.
Right.
Looks like a real gun because they fucking do.
Oh yeah, yes.
And
they look the shit.
And ended up getting shot and killed. And I've gone back. I've watched that, and that was a good shoot. I thought. Again, I'm not an attorney, but I thought that was a good shoot.
Well, now we're going to nitpick everything.
This wasn't even nitpicking. This had already, gotten cleared.
Right.
And he's bringing this back 3 years later.
Well, and that's, now we're going to go and we're going to completely, fine-tooth comb go through these things and Monday morning quarterback and hindsight 2020 and find incidents where we don't like the outcome, and we're going to try to make police officers pay. We're going to try to punish them when
it is. We're seeing in some cases, and I think it's come up just in the last week's news cycle with Chicago again.
Yep.
With their DA.
Yep.
It is an ongoing matter with Alvin Bragg in Manhattan with the, and again, I don't care what your politics are. Okay. My politics are complicated. And if the former president needs to be prosecuted, then you know what? Prosecute him. I'm not going to lose any sleep over it. However, if you're doing this, contorting yourself into, legal pretzels to make this case happen, make it a felony, but you're not prosecuting the guy robbing the corner convenience store,
right?
Or
right.
hitting the NYPD officer upside the head with a bottle,
right?
Then I'm sorry, I can't take you seriously.
No, I take issue with that as well. Again, I'm the same way. And if you want to prosecute Trump, if he's made a violation, if he's violated,
I won't lose any sleep over
whatever.
Go, but you better be doing you better be doing your core job at the same time.
Oh, exactly right. You want to go after him, fine. He committed an offense, fine. Be that as it may. Are you taking care of the issues that are affecting your community you were elected to?
Then you're not doing your job.
Exactly right.
You're not doing your job. And and we'll talk about this later on some other episodes, but it's almost like it's defund the police through alternate means.
Yeah, you're right. You're neutering them.
Well, you are creating a climate where, what's the point? I might as well come to work every day, find a safe space to hunker down, and let's watch Netflix for the entire shift.
Well, sure. Now it's magnified because now if you do good police work, it's not going to get prosecuted. So it's all for nothing.
Or you do good police work and you get prosecuted.
And you're getting prosecuted. So, and I've still got friends in Richmond, and I remember talking to them, and I got friends in other departments as well, and I worry about all of them. And I always said, you really got to be careful. You got, the days of
walks in and goes, texts and goes, I'm the only one at roll call.
That's terrifying.
I am the only one at roll call. And he was furious.
Oh, of course.
And I think they were going to hold over people from the previous shift for like a couple hours. He's like, they're working 10-hour shifts there?
Yeah, I think it's 10-hour shifts.
And he's like, that gets me through what? To 8 o'clock in the morning?
Right.
9 o'clock in the morning, maybe if I'm lucky.
It's
bad. And we're
it's,
talking about a precinct that is bigger than some localities.
Right.
Okay.
And you have nobody working with you.
No.
How are you going to...
But this does not happen in a vacuum. This is a result of a series of situations and policy decisions over time that have led, my friend to walk into roll call to him being the only son of a bitch there.
And that's just absolutely disgusting. That should not happen. And
this particular case that we just got done talking about is going to add to it.
It's going to add to it big time. And people are already leaving Richmond police in droves. And I try to steer away from encouraging people to leave law enforcement. I support folks when they make the decision that they're going to leave or go do something else. I try not to encourage it, but so much because the profession needs good people. It needs people out there willing to still do this job. That being said, for Richmond PD and for all the men and women on that department, I'm telling you, there are many jobs out there. There are places you can go because that city is not going to be there for you. They do not have your back. The administration there will not back you. We have just seen that play out with this officer that's getting hung out to dry. And
by and large, though, I don't think there's a lot of people in the city that particularly are particularly concerned about it.
I don't think so either.
Now, they are when they call RPD and they can't get somebody to come out and address the fact that their tool shed was broken into.
Right.
Then they're angry. But other than that, this is fine.
Well, I feel like when you're going to work in the city now, it's a game of Russian roulette, because now it's not a matter of, well, I can just kind of hang tight and just respond to my report calls and take my reports, because that's what it's gonna happen. Officers are just gonna focus on, let me just handle my report calls. But you don't know what you're gonna get sent to. You don't get to pick and choose what you go to. So you get sent to that, high stress call, and now you have a outcome that's not that great, and man, you're going to be hung out to dry. It's like playing Russian roulette with your career and your life. It could ruin your career and your life. Any given incident has the potential to completely bury.
Do you remember?
Hang you out to dry.
There were so many incidents in 2020 where because we had basically 90 days of rioting in the city, and there was an incident. You remember this one where window gets smashed on a Richmond car, and there's people on all sides, and suddenly there's a gap in the front, and the officer drives forward, and he slightly clips this protester's bike.
I think I do remember this.
And the mayor was online in the press, not even 24 hours. It might not have even been a couple hours. And we're going to get to the bottom of this, and this officer is going to be accountable.
Yep, I remember that.
And that officer got cleared, but thank God.
Well, he was hanging him out to dry before anything was ever even looked into.
Before any of the facts were in.
Immediately, let me jump on the bandwagon of beating this officer down and calling for his discipline.
And to be clear, and Denny and I can sit here and tell you as listeners that if an officer is doing something that disrespects the badge in any way, that officer needs to be held accountable. We are absolutely 100% not saying that officers do not need to be held accountable, or that in many instances officers need to be held to a higher standard.
Sure.
But this has to be tempered with reason.
Reason. That is the key right there, my friend. We do not support, running out there and being a rogue officer. We don't support any of that mess. We don't support being grossly negligent in their job.
If there are people that need to be out of the job or, God forbid, prosecuted,
then so be it.
Then you know what? I fully support it.
But this mess of trying to find any little way to prosecute and beat them down is ridiculous. And I hope that this officers working for the city look elsewhere. I will tell you, there are plenty of police departments that are still good agencies that are hiring certified officers. Go check it out. They will probably pay you more. They will treat you better, and you will be much better off if you have to face any adversity in one of those locations in the city. You will fare much better. Plenty places hiring. There's plenty agencies that are not police, that are law enforcement, that are hiring. Start looking. Get out of that agency.
And I hate to say that.
So do I.
Because, again, I never worked for that agency.
I did, and I hate to say that. I've got good friends there. I've had some good supervisors there. But I am genuinely concerned about the folks that I know that work there, and even the folks that I don't know that work there.
Yeah.
Who is the next that's going to be taken down and hung out to dry?
I never worked there or for that agency, but I worked in the city most of my career.
Yep.
For other agencies, and because it is a melting pot law enforcement environment. There's multiple agencies that do work.
That's
the
right.
City of Richmond. You know, I have fond memories of policing in the city, and then of course I was born and raised in the city.
Right.
I mean,
that's your hometown.
That is my home, and the city. I mean, the city, not the outskirts, not the suburbs, the city.
Yeah,
is for good or for ill home.
I know,
and I hate to see. It breaks my heart, you know, personally and professionally, to see what has become of it in the last probably at least the last 3 years.
It is. It's disappointing. I mean, I've spent a lot of time. So when you lived in the city, I used to come visit you all the time. And I went to VCU. We spent a lot of time in the city. And I want to love the city, but it's just
some of the best cops I ever had honor to work with were city cops.
No doubt. No, I learned the most from being in this. I mean, that's my crash course in street cop. I mean, I learned so much from a lot of great law enforcement officers.
I mean, just some phenomenally talented and really dedicated, invested people.
But now they're facing going out and doing their job for an administration not going to support them.
No. But
we want to move to another location.
Yeah, we want to go to suburbia now.
We do, and we're talking about you, Chesterfield, because now we're coming to Chesterfield.
So let me talk about the elected Commonwealth's attorney in Chesterfield County. And for those of you that are not aware, we talk about Richmond as Metro Richmond. Okay, so if you're listening out in California, you know we this is Metro Richmond, and in Virginia, our counties are independent of our cities, and vice versa. So this is a county outside of our capital city of Richmond, Chesterfield, and we have an elected Commonwealth's attorney by the name of Stacey Davenport. Because it's an elected position, you know, these are, Democrat, Republican. It's a political office, right? So we've had some issues come up with Ms. Davenport recently.
Unfortunately,
more than a couple, actually.
Unfortunately, we have.
So the first involves the Commonwealth throwing the local PD under the bus. This is Chesterfield County Police Department, which, frankly, in my opinion, is probably one of the best police departments in the Commonwealth of Virginia, arguably the best municipal police department in the Commonwealth, and probably, in my opinion, one of the best municipal police departments in the country.
Yeah, I'm with you on that. I mean, and that was one of my former agencies.
Right.
And have a lot of good things to say.
And so they were doing a sting operation targeting individuals that were trying to link up with underage kids for sexual activities.
Yes.
And so everything kind of came to a head when Miss Davenport picked one case out of a number from this sting operation that was run by detectives out of Chesterfield.
Yep.
A guy who, by the name of John Blanchard, he's a pastor with a church down near Virginia Beach.
Yep.
It's a Rock Church, is it?
Is it a Rock Church?
Rock Church or something like that?
I don't know. I just know he's a pastor in the Virginia Beach area.
Right. So all these other cases get prosecuted.
But
not his.
What happened, Al?
Well, we're not really sure. I'm not even sure that the chief of Chesterfield Police Department fully understands that.
But I think he made that known. So I think
he made that known in a very public way.
He did that. He called it out.
And you know what? God bless him for, having the intestinal fortitude to take that to the media the way that he did.
Oh, yeah, he came out strong.
Oh, he came out swinging. The only excuse we ever got from the Commonwealth's office was that the evidence was not sufficient.
Right. For prosecution.
Now, mind you that it is on record that this individual, Reverend Blanchard, did have communications with the individual.
Yes.
That was the decoy, if you will.
That's right.
That established that they were under 21, or excuse me, under 18. Well, they were a minor.
Well, there was a issue with that, and one of the issues was there was a text message sent, I guess, while he was on the way. They never really gave an actual age, and evidently while he was traveling here, there was a text message sent to his phone from the decoy that says, "I'm 17 years old. I hope that's okay." Now, he never responded to that text message.
Yet he showed up.
But he did show up. So, that was the question. I think that was what the...
And if unless I'm mistaken, he understood that he was meeting this individual for sexual acts.
Well, and yes, and I think they were using like an app or something like that is pretty much for that type of activity. I think you're right. It was an app that was well known for that activity. That if you're on that app, that's what you're into.
You are trolling for children.
And I think the CA was, from what I can understand, they're kind of hinging on that. Well, the text message, we don't know that text message was received, and he never acknowledged that he received it, saying that they're 17. Okay, I'll hop in that boat with you for a few minutes, but at the end of the day, we're talking about it's probable cause to charge.
Mm-hmm.
You still have all the other circumstances. He's coming all the way from Virginia Beach for some sort of sexual activity.
And just so you know, okay, for those of you that are not familiar with the area, we're talking about, what? Nothing short of a 90-minute drive.
Oh, it usually takes about 2 hours to get to Virginia Beach.
I mean, and he wasn't all the way down there, but we're talking nothing short of a 90-minute drive.
Minimum 90-minute. So you're coming all this way. So certainly, I think that's what the chief issue was, is we've charged all these people, and we're not charging this one. When, if it gets dismissed in court, it gets dismissed in court. But I think his position is, your job is to prosecute this case. We have a case. Now, whether you think we may have a hurdle because he didn't answer this text message, okay, fine. But I think he's correct. I mean, you have a case. Now, I also understand that it is the Commonwealth Attorney's job to decide what gets prosecuted and what does not.
But isn't it interesting that that's the one that they go, no.
And that's where the problem lies. It doesn't look like it's legit. And then when the police ask, well, what's lacking from the case, they get a half-ass answer. They don't really get a straight-up answer of what did they do wrong, or what did they not do to make this case worth prosecuting. And the other issue was then Mr. Blanchard is his name?
Yeah.
He ended up then petitioning to have the charge expunged off his record. So I think that was another that really stuck in the chief's craw, that, now I've got this guy who's driving all the way up here from Virginia Beach area to my community to solicit sex from minors. We've arrested him. We've charged him. They've declined to prosecute. Now they're going to allow him to expunge his record.
No.
And I'm sorry. I will also say this, and for those that may not be in law enforcement, the first time you're caught ain't the first time you did it. I'm sorry. That was not the first time he ever.
No.
He didn't just stumble upon that website that fucking day and head on out to Chesterfield for a little fun. That was not.
No, he didn't.
No way.
He didn't pull up into. I'm guessing it was a hotel or something that they were using. He didn't pull up, go into that room, and go, "Wait a minute, you wanted what? I had what?
Right.
This is not what I thought."
And he didn't wake up that day and go,
No.
"Oh, let me check this site out, see what this is." No, this is
not for a second.
he has.
Not for a
I'm
second.
sure there are many incidents he's just not been charged, and none of the person. Well, I don't know. Do I have any evidence of that? No, but. When you ask me, well, how do you know that? I will tell you, long experience, my friend.
Mm-hmm.
And you talk to anybody else in law enforcement.
People do not fall into that stuff by, accident or happenstance. They do not.
So I'm sure this was reoccurring incidents with him, and he got caught on this one. And unfortunately, now it got expunged.
Right. And now I'm going to be very, very speculative, and I'm curious. I don't know what his party affiliation is, if he has one.
Yeah,
I don't know how he donates his money. Right?
Right.
I don't.
Right.
But it sure does make me mighty curious.
Yeah, I think that was some that those that were upset about the charge were making that accusation that there was likely a political phone call made, and I don't know whether there was. I mean, Ms. Davenport has denied that. I have no reason to think that she's not being truthful on that, but it
leads one to be
yes
suspicious.
It opens
and
the door.
as cops, we are naturally suspicious folk.
But it opens the door to have that idea that, okay, wow, if you're not going to prosecute this case, and obviously this guy's a relatively prominent pastor in his area, it sounds like some sort of favor or called in favor. It may not be, but it certainly doesn't sound good.
And he's a prominent person, okay, and we want to talk about the equal and equitable administration of justice,
yes,
right?
Yes.
And so all these other people, and I forget, it was 20, 30 of these cases that came out of this operation.
It was multiple.
And so you got Joe Shit, the rag man that happens to show up,
right?
Looking for some underage action.
Right.
And now he's cooling his heels in the county minimally, maybe DOC at this point. And he goes skipping off into the sunset.
Yeah. I just feel like if you have all those dynamics going on, even if you think, man, this is probably going to get tossed.
Oh, I'm gonna throw it out there and let the judge or the jury decide it.
Yeah, that needs to come in the courtroom, because that then eliminates anybody's notion that there was some favor done or there was some phone call made or some political influence. It eliminates that altogether, and then you have, at least it goes before court. And if it's dismissed, you don't have that contention with the PD now. Well, we prosecuted it. You brought it. We told you that we didn't think it was going to go through because of this or that.
Well,
but we brought it, and it was dismissed, but we gave it a try. So you at least maintain that work relationship.
You used the word contention. And as we go forward...
Yeah, there's more.
Wait, there's more.
And we're staying in Chesterfield.
God. All right. So, go fast forward to just the past week.
Yes.
And so in Virginia, most localities, every locality by our state constitution must have a sheriff's office.
Yes.
But that does not mean that the sheriff's office is a full-service sheriff's office in that they offer patrol services or investigatory services. So in Chesterfield, the sheriff's office is in charge of the jail, the courts, and civil process.
Right.
They have the same authority as the PD, but that's just what they do. There's a delineation of job functions. So one of the deputies in the county had a negligent discharge of his firearm at his private residence. And I say negligent discharge because that's what it was.
It is. You know,
That's what it was. They carry Glock firearms, and
this was his personal. I don't know what weapon it was though. This was a personal weapon.
Was it?
That's
oh, then you
that's
have some
what
information I don't have.
That's what I understand. It was his personal weapon.
Oh,
that he was cleaning supposedly.
Okay.
And
Point being though is
it's still a negligent discharge.
That shit should not happen.
Right, and that's why we don't call it an accidental discharge. It is negligent because you weren't negligent. You didn't clear your weapon like you're supposed to. So he cracks off a round
in a private residence, I believe, and you went and did a little bit of additional digging on this.
I did.
Not the round did not go in the direction of any people, or
and that's what I understand. He actually rents a room, is how I understand it. Rents a room at a house and fired around. It went into the wall. He then calls.
Did it go through the wall?
I don't believe so.
Okay.
I don't believe so. He then calls police department to report that he fired off a round, and the police respond and talk to him, interview him, and look into it.
Because that's what his policy would likely dictate. That if he has an ND, even if it's off duty, he's to notify the locality of record, the PD for the locality of record.
Right. And whether I don't know what his notification was internally, but probably make a notification internally to his agency as well.
That would be pretty standard for the profession.
But in this case, at some point, the police department reaches out to the Commonwealth Attorney to get their opinion on it. And the Commonwealth Attorney, Stacey Davenport, decides she's going to charge him.
And she is charging him with
reckless
handling of a firearm, which is a Class 1 misdemeanor.
Class 1 misdemeanor.
Which in Virginia means that it is punishable by up to 12 months in jail or up to a $2,500 fine, or both.
Yeah, it could carry jail time. So when I was on PD, we went to several negligent discharge calls. I can't ever remember making a criminal charge unless somebody was injured. Anytime we had no injury.
So if I'm like cowboy twirling my Glock in the middle of a Walmart parking lot on a Saturday afternoon.
Yeah, you get charged on that one.
Yeah. But if I'm just being a jackass and I don't check the chamber before I disassemble my Glock in my house and I manage to shoot a hole in the floor, then what?
And no, I can't ever remember a time where someone was charged for that. Now, I'm going to, of course, I didn't respond to every single call we ever got for that, but none that I ever responded to, or none that I was ever made aware of, was there a charge unless someone was hurt. Now, again, you're at a party and you're fooling around with your gun and you've been drinking and you're acting like a jackwagon. You crack off around and shoot somebody in the leg or shoot somebody in the arm.
Yeah, you're probably going to.
You're going to get charged.
Yeah.
You know, that clearly is reckless handling, no doubt. But to be cleaning your weapon, and you don't clear it like you should. Again, you make a mistake. You crack off a round in your room, throw a bullet into the wall. No one's injured. You're not injured. You didn't injure anybody else. Why are we charging? And I got to tell you, I've been around firearms a good portion of my life, and particularly through the police department, but discharges happen all the time. We see them on the range all the time. Hell, we had one in my precinct when I was in the city. We had a round cracked off into the floor of the precinct on Christmas Eve. Christmas Eve.
Merry Christmas.
Pow! Yeah. Made a big old hole in the floor, and a ricochet went up into the ceiling. Now, did he get arrested? No. We have him happen at the range.
Well, in my experience, knocking on wood, saying a little prayer, that's happened once.
You're fortunate.
Once, well, I'm not going to go into details, but
no, I got you.
But once there, but by the grace of God, once.
But it goes back to the whole, like we talked about on the officers charged with a crash. because you didn't check it, or you thought the gun was, you dropped the magazine, you thought the gun was empty. Does that make you negligent, or does it just make it an accident?
Well, something like this happens, and it's probably going to be an IA thing. It should be.
Oh, well, of course, and you're probably going to get in trouble for it.
And you're probably going to get some days in the street.
Yeah, sure.
And yeah, that's fair. That's fair.
Do you need days in jail over that?
Oh, do you need months in jail?
Well, right. I mean, you could receive that.
Well, but there's a variable, Denny. Wait, there's more.
There is a variable.
Wait,
haven't touched on.
There's more.
This gets better and better.
So, and this is where Denny and I got particularly upset. This didn't just materialize out of whole cloth. No, it did not. This was, as we like to say, an opportunity for Miss Davenport. Why might she want an opportunity? So it would seem that there was a lot of, as you can imagine, political fallout over the situation with this pastor. So much so that we had a prominent member of our General Assembly, Delegate Tim Anderson,
he got involved,
who was really taking her to task in the media, on social media, to such an extent that he was actually contemplating a run for her job.
I remember. Yep.
And a friend of this program, Jeff Katz, who has a prominent radio show in our area on WRVA 1140 AM and 96.1 FM. She won't go. She won't go on his show because she's like, I got meetings. Do you have I got meetings all day. Well, what about tomorrow? I got meetings that day too. So he can't get her on. Right.
Yep.
So long story long, another gentleman steps up, and Miss Davenport is a Republican, and he steps up to challenge her for the nomination because her race is coming up.
It is. Yep.
And this is I'm not familiar with this gentleman. I know he's a former state trooper, McKenna.
Tom McKenna. He was
Tom McKenna.
Yeah, he was in the CA's office when I worked there.
I remember he pulled some time there before he went into private practice.
Yeah, he was. I had a lot of cases with Tom.
I see he's got a very good reputation.
Yeah, he was well thought of. I mean, I always had really good experiences with Tom McKenna. I mean, all my cases I brought, he was easy to work with. So he's well thought of.
Mere days before Ms. Davenport announces these charges, Carl Leonard, the sitting sheriff in Chesterfield, good man, also happens to be the chair of the local Republican Party, I believe.
I think so.
He endorsed McKenna.
He did. Publicly endorsed McKenna.
Publicly. For the position of CA over Ms. Davenport, who is the sitting Republican CA.
And he cited strains in the relationship between the CA's office and the police department.
He was his usual eloquent professional self.
He cited those were the reasons. He didn't do any kind of character attack.
Nope.
And we're not trying to do that here either. And I actually know Stacey Davenport. We've met. I've spoken with her a couple of times, and she's always been very nice. So I don't have any personal issue.
No.
Professionally, I have an issue. I have an issue how she's running that office.
But again, if I don't know anything about anything, and I look and I go, well, you got criticism, and now you got one of the most prominent members of your own party, who also happens to be sheriff, endorsing your challenger, and then Not, 48 hours, 72 hours later,
I think it was
this thing comes
a couple
out?
of days. I know
It was close. It was really close.
I believe I saw on one of the social media the sheriff making his endorsement, and I think that was like around the 17th of April. And then the news article on the officer being charged was on the 22nd of April. So I'm sure, that incident was obviously before the media got hold of it. So, yeah, within days of the sheriff announcing that he is supporting her competitor and another candidate, boom, now you have a deputy being charged, reckless handling of a firearm in his residence, nobody injured. What the fuck?
Yeah, and if, I do not know Carl Leonard personally. I'm acquainted with him. I'm not sure he knows who I am, but we have met. We have crossed paths. I'm very familiar with him and his agency, and I am pretty damn confident that he would hold this deputy accountable.
Oh, no doubt. I actually know Sheriff Leonard very well, and he's first class, and he runs a tight ship. So no doubt that deputy's going to receive disciplinary action, and so he should. And so anytime we've had negligent discharge with an officer or anything like that, you're going to get dinged. But is it criminal? Are you criminally negligent? Well, if there were some more circumstances, again,
yeah.
he's in there drinking and carrying on and partying with some friends over and showing off his pistol and winging around, and then he fires off and he nicks somebody or shoots somebody in the leg or anything like that and injures a person, then you are acting reckless with that. You sitting in your room by yourself to clean your gun and you don't empty the round out the chamber or don't clear the gun properly and it fires off around, that's not criminal.
Yeah, well,
give me a break.
I will call you a moron to your face.
Absolutely.
But the
you're not. It's not criminal negligence. That's absolutely just ridiculous. It's just nonsense.
We had a conversation offline, you and I, about wouldn't it be interesting to FOIA the county's calls for accidental / negligent discharges.
Yep.
And find out how many were actually prosecuted. And I'm going to pretty much bet even money that in excess of 90% of them are not criminally prosecuted.
Oh, yeah. Oh, no, I'm with you. And,
not that there's that many to begin with.
And,
but there's enough.
And I did some checking. I can only do so much checking, but I still have some sources here and there. But one of the things I wanted to make sure before we even brought it up was, is there something I'm missing out of this? Is there an aggravating circumstance in there? Is there something that we don't know? Was he twirling this gun around and
because
using drugs or alcohol or something crazy?
We wanted to make sure, to the best of our ability, we were doing our due diligence.
Right, because, and I don't need to know the details. That was just my question. Is there something that I'm missing on this case? Is it not as cut and dry as it sounds? And what I got was, we ain't missing shit. It's exactly cut and dry like we think. So we're not missing anything on it. There's no other circumstances, no other aggravating circumstances on it. That's what we told you occurred is what occurred. And now this deputy's getting criminally charged with a Class 1 misdemeanor. That's just bullshit.
And so one of the reasons that we wanted to talk about this, in this incident in particular, was, obviously we got this political beef between elected officials.
Yep.
There's clearly, well, I won't say there's clearly, but there's more than likely some personality conflicts. There's definitely some political conflicts. And now we seemingly have an official that has decided that the circumstances are such that it provides an opportunity to use a sworn member of law enforcement as a pawn for political advantage, a cudgel, if you will, against a political opponent, and fuck them and their life and anything about them.
Yeah.
And sadly, this is not the first time that we've seen this happen to a member of law enforcement.
No, it's bad. It's just unfortunate we're starting to experience it in this area. And, for anybody that's...
we haven't even touched the county to the north.
Right, jeez. So, and for any officers that are on Chesterfield, on that department, if you live in the county, it's time to make a change when you go to the ballot box. It's time to make a change. Unless you want to see what happened in Richmond start to happen in Chesterfield, unfortunately, I'm sorry, it's time for change. You need to make a change in that CA's office. And for the citizens of that county, unless you want to see Chesterfield start to have the issues that Richmond City has, and I know you don't want to have that going on, it is time to make a change, because there is certainly major issues between the CA's office, sheriff's office, and PD. There is not a good working relationship. You need to change that.
I'm gonna wax philosophical here.
Okay,
God
go ahead.
you.
Yep.
So I don't put this in the same category as, say, like things that have, like we discussed with the city,
right?
Things that have gone on in the city, particularly over the last 3 years. I mean, that is ideologically driven.
No,
okay?
Yeah, it is. It is.
And I don't agree with their ideology. I don't endorse their ideology.
Right.
But at the end of the day, it is their ideology.
Yes.
And it's it's a clash of beliefs, if you will. But this is different. This, in my observation, take it for what it's worth, this isn't about ideology.
Well, it's about political.
It's political
retaliation,
opportunism, political retaliation, and it, in the process, you've now made an officer a pawn. Again, fuck him, fuck his life.
Yeah.
Who cares about him? You're just a tool in my advancement.
And that's just...
And to me, that makes it worse.
Well, it does. I mean, you're putting this poor guy... I think Randy Ye messed up, man. He cracked off around. He made a mistake. But now you are putting this guy in to the criminal system. He's going to have to go have his trial.
Yep.
Hire his attorney. Hopefully not get a conviction. And, save himself from going to jail and losing his job. But look at all the hoops he's going to have to jump to. Even if he is acquitted, which I think he, hopefully, I can't say he will. I mean, I'd like to think that he will, because I think it's just ridiculous. And I hope a decent judge is going to look at it and go, this is bullshit. But even if he does, look at what he's going to have to go through to get there. And think, what kind of stress is he going through right now?
Oh, I can't. Yeah, I mean, I can't even imagine.
Bad enough that you might lose your job, but to go to jail over this? Come on. I mean, I'll tell you right now, my dad back in the day, way back in the day.
Well,
that was a long time ago. He had a negligent discharge, and he shot a fellow officer in the leg. Now, granted, I mean, it was a long time ago. I get it, but
he
still,
shot a friend.
He did.
And they stayed friends, which is crazy.
They did, because I ended up working with his son when I went to investigations. And first day of investigations, we're in the car, and he's like, yeah, your dad shot my daddy. And I'm like, yeah, he told me about that.
Oh.
And we laughed about it. And then he called his dad on the phone, and on the speakerphone. And he's like, hey, you never guess who I'm working with. He's like, who you working with? He's like, I'm working with Junior. And on speakerphone, I hear his dad go, don't let him shoot you. And to this day, we laugh about that anytime I see him. And it's been a while.
And you think about it.
Joke about that.
In the moment, that was probably horrifying.
Well, actually, it was. I mean, he got hit in the leg, and he was evidently bleeding out like crazy.
I'm sure.
And I think it was actually close.
I'm sure your dad got his ass handed to him by the department.
Oh, I'm sure that the chief then came down on him pretty hard. But I don't remember what he got, but he didn't get arrested. And like I said,
no, he didn't. He didn't.
He didn't get arrested. So, come on.
And he ended up having, a full, phenomenal, lengthy career.
He did, even after he shot somebody in the leg. Well, but now we didn't touch on this, and I will touch on the PD's response to this, because I do have the question: why are we calling the CA's office on a misdemeanor charge? This is a misdemeanor at most. You're there.
So you're going to have to explain that to the listeners a little more. Why? Like, I understand what you're saying, but again, we get people on here that they're listening and they don't necessarily know what is common procedure. So what do you mean?
So common procedure, on a particular, we'll stay with misdemeanor offense. On a misdemeanor offense, an officer has officer discretion. They can charge or they cannot charge. And typically, if it's a misdemeanor that the officer didn't witness, they can't make an on-scene arrest. They got to go back and get a warrant for that. And there's certain exceptions. There are certain misdemeanors that they can make an on-scene arrest for if they didn't observe it. We're not going to get into all that because we're not going to get into legal jargon and Virginia code. But however, on this situation, it's a misdemeanor offense. The investigating officer has the ability to decide whether this should be charged or not. Now, given the circumstances that it is a deputy, a member of another agency, I guarantee they called for a supervisor. Guarantee it. I worked there. I know the agency. They called a supervisor. And I am pretty confident a supervisor responded. So the supervisor would have made that call on whether we're going to go get a warrant and charge this individual. The other option you do have is you can call the Commonwealth Attorney's Office. And lots of times in investigations, we would consult with the Commonwealth Attorney on larger cases, homicide cases, high-profile cases. Something like this, you're not required to, but you can. So I am guessing, I don't want to sound guessing, but I'm a very educated guess that the supervisor on scene looked at everything there and did not want to make the decision themselves and decided, well, we're going to call the Commonwealth Attorney's Office and we're going to put the ball in their court and let them make that decision. And I'm not good with that. That's, again, unless there's an aggravating circumstance to it, that should have been a pretty easy call for a supervisor on scene to make, to go, we're going to take the report on it. We'll notify the sheriff's office that we came here, we investigated it. This is what the statement that they made, and you file the report and you're done. But why they decided to push it further by calling a Commonwealth Attorney's Office, I'm not sure. And I on that end, I think part of that ball was dropped by whoever that supervisor was.
It sounds a little bit like I'm going to cover my ass and pass the buck.
Well, yeah. I mean
that's all I'll say.
And well, that's exactly what it is. That's, and I don't know. It very well could have gone, to the next level supervision that would have been working that night. So I don't know but I'm pretty confident that was a supervisory decision to call the Commonwealth Attorney's Office. Don't agree with that. It's a misdemeanor offense. Do the report, make your notifications, and be done. Unless you have something aggravating in there. So I think that was no good. And now it's gone to the CA using it as their weapon.
Right. And we are a show that talks heavily about the issues of mental health in law enforcement and public safety. And part of why we decided we had to get out and talk about some of these issues tonight was the fact that these are all things that impact on mental health.
Oh, yeah.
And we have, I think nationally, created a climate where any mistake or any violation of policy, and again, we are not arguing for a lack of accountability, not in the least.
No way.
You don't know if you don't know what's going to happen to you.
Yeah.
I mean, you could be facing prison.
Yeah.
You could be facing loss of your job, loss of your freedom.
Well, think how these Richmond officers feel now.
Right. But we are asking people in law enforcement to do things and place themselves in situations that the average person simply will not. Simply will not. If you just take a routine, moderately hot call scenario, run it past, John Q. Citizen and go, would you do that? They go, fuck no. No, I'm not doing that.
Yep.
And so now we're asking people to do things, and we're saying there is no room for error.
Man, you're exactly right.
There is I repeat, there is no room for error. And unfortunately, we deal with human beings who are dealing with other human beings in highly volatile, highly fluid situations. So guess what? Mistakes will get fucking made.
Absolutely.
It is
of course
unavoidable. It is unavoidable. And what have we done? What do we seem to be on a trend to keep doing? Is we are chilling the profession even further. And we talk about hypervigilance, right?
Yep.
As a profession. And that is where, hypervigilance in the context of law enforcement training is this idea that you are so concerned for a threat, right? A threat to your safety, that it's an overpowering emotion. It can be a potentially debilitating emotion in extreme circumstances.
Sure.
Right. So, hypervigilance, we have, throughout most of our career, been trained on that idea as it pertains to criminals and crime and threats to our safety. What are we doing now? We're creating another type of hypervigilance, but this time it's against the public, the press, our elected leaders. And we don't know who's going to screw us more. The bad guys and the mopes out here on the street? John Q. Citizen? So-and-so at the media? So-and-so elected official?
Yeah, every angle, every aspect is like ready to knock you down. And, I think I'm sure the Chesterfield officers, I'm sure they're feeling a little pressure now. Chesterfield Sheriff's Office, I'm sure they're feeling. I mean, the shot has been fired across the bow.
And again, we should be held to a higher standard. Yeah, I get that.
No doubt.
I get that. And we should be accountable for our mistakes and our shortcomings, and God forbid our overt violations of law, policy, or common sense.
No doubt.
I mean, that
But every mistake doesn't immediately default to
the death penalty.
Right.
Metaphorically speaking.
Right. It doesn't automatically default to we're going to charge you. You're going to be arrested. How are you going to get anybody to ever do this job?
Well, the answer is it's like my buddy who texted me the other day, and he walks into roll call, and it's just him.
One person. Yeah.
It's just him. So, if the citizens are okay, and I don't think, like in the city of Richmond, for example, that the average citizen understands that that's the situation.
Right.
That's the paradigm.
Yep.
They don't get it.
Yep.
Because no one's really talking about it, and
Yeah.
City Hall is not particularly transparent
Yep.
on the severity of the situation. They don't care.
I know. I don't know, man. It's a bad situation, and I'm really disappointed that we're seeing that so close to home right now.
Well,
For a while,
again, we haven't even talked about all of our local localities.
This is
just two.
Yeah, and we've already gone quite a while. So
Yeah.
I mean,
Yeah,
there's plenty more.
There's another locality we could definitely talk about.
It's just before I was seeing these things unfold in other areas, and even though they were still bad in other areas,
it wasn't home.
It wasn't home, and now it's at home. So I'm here to tell you right now, if you live in the city of Richmond or you live in Chesterfield County, both locations, it is time for a new Commonwealth attorney. Time to make a change because they are going to erode your public safety. And it's a shame.
Yeah. Well, I know this is we warned you. There's going to be some of these episodes where Denny and I just get on here and we just kind of
rant
and let loose.
So, and this was, one of those. I think we had to rant. But I think that's going to wrap us up.
Yeah, I think so.
Definitely, it's a tough time for law enforcement right now, but we are thinking about all of you that are in public safety. Keep your heads up and definitely reach out to us.
Let us know what you're thinking. You can reach out to us at wearebadgetothebone@gmail.com, wearebadgetothebone@gmail.com. You can also find us on Facebook at Badge to the Bone. Just type that into your search bar. It comes right up.
Absolutely. So definitely give us some support. Let us know what you think. But for all y'all out there still out in the field, be safe
and be well.